Hello, everyone. As we have finally hit a point where mental health has become a global conversation, but how do we know what treatment is right for us? And how do we gain confidence in alternative medicines? My name is Margaret Williamson, and I'm the head of partnerships at Nucleus, where we work to connect data and people in their journey to well being. And you're watching Mind Shifting Moments, where we work to believe that, hey, the best way to gain confidence is by asking questions. And our big question today is, why should I try ibogaine? I'm honored to have both the CEO, Tom Feegel, and their Chief Medical Director, Dr. Felipe Malacara of Beond, here with me today to help us answer those questions. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Margaret.
Of course.
Hello, Margaret. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having us.
And tell us a little bit, Doctor, you're actually joining us from Mexico. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm in Cancun, Mexico.
Wonderful. So briefly, if you can, Doctor, give us a little bit of introduction and let us know, and the people watching, why your experience and your expertise makes you the perfect person to help us answer why we should try ibogaine.
Well, I have been working with ibogaine and treating patients mainly from substance abuse for 17 years now. I was formed previously in another renowned clinic, and now we are working together and alongside with Beyond to make this better and a little bolder because we are more open to different aspects of the ibogaine treatment. It's our therapy ibogaine helped or ibogaine induced program that we can accept not only substance abuse patients but also patients with certain amount of mental problems like stress, like depression, like post-traumatic stress, and we are willing to help them and trying to find a way of these all different data which is floating on the internet about ibogaine is not only for substance abuse but also to help other mental problems, post-traumatic stress disorder, severe anxiety, and severe depression, to prove it right if it's the case. So we are open to make all this work of treating patients, investigation, research to achieve that.
I love that. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted you two from Beyond to be my guest to help answer this question. I think that a lot of the resources out there talk about, the addiction recovery and those severe PTSD use cases. But I love that you guys have a sort of unique standpoint that you've added to the therapy as well. Tom, can you share some light on that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. I think it's important to underscore the fact that over thousands of treatments conducted by Dr. Malacara, our chief clinical officer, and Dr. Jeffrey Camlett, our chief medical officer, we've developed a proprietary protocol, both to address safety factors, which we'll probably get into today, but also other aspects. We call it insight-oriented ibogaine. And the reason for that is through 5 phases of preparation, pre-treatment, treatment, and aftercare, acute and long-term aftercare. Our therapists, our medical professionals, our nurses are aiding our guests. We call them guests, not patients. Aiding our guests in the first phase of understanding what is the issue area or the challenge, whether it's a behavioral addiction or a chemical dependency, depression, anxiety, severe PTSD, or a combination thereof.
Yeah.
What is the source of this? What is the root of this issue area? And then when the guests participate in the pre-treatment, they're really setting an agenda. We actually call it the personal psychedelic agenda. And the purpose of that is for them to really understand what is the goal of this therapeutic delivery model. And so when they go through the ibogaine experience, they actually have a sense of purpose and intention behind it across multiple dimensions, multiple issue areas: family, money, career, self-esteem, early childhood experience, etc. So what this enables us to do is uncover and then address through a very specific design, a therapeutic approach to recovery from either a behavioral addiction or chemical dependency or a recurring traumatic event that other therapeutic methods haven't been able to address.
Okay, right there. That's the part that I love, right? So when we talk about who is this for, right? I think we've got the idea of, severe addiction, severe PTSD and trauma, but on some of them there might be milder use cases or scenarios. I love, there's a video on your website and on your social media where one of your guests talked about not having an opioid addiction, but she kept scratching her legs. And she would go to the different doctors and they would treat the symptoms, give you topical ointments, give you steroid creams, even try to dig a little bit deeper to say, hey, maybe it's something you're eating, maybe you switch detergents. But the reality is, right, is that our mental systems and our physical systems are connected, but they're not the same. And so sometimes, right, the things that are happening inside of our brains are causing physical manifestations and symptoms, but it can't be solved from something that's only experienced through the topical, right? And that's, to me, what I think is so unique about ibogaine. Am I correct in that? Is that maybe what sets it apart from some of the other, talk therapy medications, some of the other prescription drugs that might exist on the market?
Yes, I'm going to let Dr. Malacara address the medical aspects of this, but just to set the stage a little bit, ibogaine is known to reset, right? This is one of the most powerful aspects of this plant. It is an experience that interrupts the opiate dependency, the cravings, the chemical dependency, and the withdrawals. So this same principle can be applied, and we do apply it to a reset of a number of dependencies, or what we'll call maladaptive coping with the traumatic events of life that many people have experienced, but have not gotten to a point where they're struggling so much that they're addicted to a powerful narcotic, alcohol. They're struggling with changing their behavior. Mm-hmm. And they need that reset. And so who is this for? This is for people who either have chemical dependency, severe depression, anxiety, or trauma, or those of us who are not suffering with that, but really do need a reset in their experience of some behavior that is no longer serving them constructively.
Right. I love that. And not to cut you off, doctor, but maybe you can add on to this, because I was going through and reading sort of like, okay, who is this for? And I got caught on ones that were irritability and anger, inability to experience a sense of reward or joy in life, a more acute awareness of the details and nuances of ordinary aspects of life, a lack of motivation, low energy levels. These are things when you start identifying those types of behaviors, well, all of a sudden, maybe I am included in that circle. And maybe, us going through what we went through over the last 2 and 3 years, from social unrest to global pandemics, to, full supply chains being disrupted, that we can start to open our minds to say, maybe this is something that's worthwhile, that I should make this type of investment in my own mental health and healing. So, doctor, if you can tell us, if we're going through those list of indicators, how many of those should we check off before we feel like this is a proper treatment? Or is one enough?
Well, unfortunately, right now, ibogaine is kind of stigmatized, is kind of risky medication, is probably the riskiest of all the psychedelics available right now. And of course, this make it like a tricky decision to say that this could be for everyone. Probably, eventually, it might be proven that it will help anyone, but right now it's kind of difficult to address. So if you have like mild anxiety or mild depression symptoms, Definitely, I don't think it's like the first choice. But if you have been multi-treated and it doesn't work, then it's about time to begin thinking of other solutions, and ibogaine might be one of those solutions.
Okay.
Same with substance abuse.
Yeah.
If there's other options, probably they can be think of first. But it's definitely proven that in this case, and specifically on opiates, nothing works better than ibogaine. Despite the risk that it represents, nothing works better than ibogaine on opiate addiction. And on other addiction, it has a very good percentage of success. But something that people must know is not magic. There's nothing magic about ibogaine. It's just a detonant of a healing process. It's the beginning of a healing process. It just makes things easier. It's not that you do ibogaine treatment and you are cured immediately. No, it's just to, in the case of substance abuse, it will reduce or stop the withdrawal symptom and the cravings, which it's a big deal of a help if you continue to have the proper therapy, a proper psychological assessment, and the proper follow up in order to do the things that must be done, changing environment, beginning to perform things in a different way, uh, getting rid of whatever triggers the consumption of substances, getting rid of your cell phone number or SIM so you cannot be tracked by your dealers or they cannot locate you anymore. There's a lot of work that has to be done. So I need to stress that ibogaine is not magic. It's just a chemical reaction that occurs in your brain that levels a little bit your brain chemistry and helps to get it through the pathway of recovery. It's not immediate recovery. It's not a magic cure, but it's a great deal of a help that we can offer every single patient
Um,
to better succeed in this goal of living in a better way, of living free of addictions or free of stress or free of depression. Yeah, but stress, anxiety, and depression are normal reactions to different events. The goal is to make them like to last what they have to. Short lasting events of stress are pretty normal. Short lasting depression for certain situations are pretty normal.
mhm,
Short lasting anxiety for extremely stressful situations are pretty normal.
mhm.
Yeah. Problem is when they prolonged in time and cause a chronic syndrome. That's when action has to be taken.
Yes, I agree. You said so many interesting things. I think the one that's jumping out to me first is, you know, you talked about how it, because that's what we want to get into, right? Like, how does ibogaine do what it does? And what you're saying is that it sounds like it's a great addendum to a full therapy regimen, right? This is someone who has entered onto their journey of well-being and healing back to their true self. I want to talk to you guys about that and the true path. What does that mean? What are you guys talking about when you talk about things like that? And that chemical part, I read something, and this was a big mind shift for me, that what it does is take you back almost to that pre-7-year-old brain, where the chemicals inside your brain are allowing you to learn things faster, create new patterns, to look at life without all of those baggage, or sometimes those routes that we've dug in our mind. So like, it doesn't matter. Even if someone pays you a compliment, there's something that's triggered inside your brain. This chemical imbalance has manifested itself in thought processes and patterns. And that's where we end up in poor behaviors and not being able to realize the full potential of our true selves. And so, how does that work? Is that right? That it's realigning the chemicals in our brain so that we can approach life differently? And what does it mean to find your back to yourself in the true path?
Well, yes, a chemical reaction occurs and it begins in your liver.
I
Ibogaine
think we're
is
both going to have to take a bit of this one, but
okay.
doctor, help us understand how it works. the increase in GDNF, the retention of noribogaine, and then I'd love to try to, if I can, add to that kind of what it means to understand that whole person and the commencement of that stage of this therapeutic care continuum.
Yes, definitely. As I was saying, it's a chemical reaction. It begins in your liver
Mhm.
when you begin turning ibogaine into noribogaine. And it's noribogaine, the one that goes to your brain and performs all these chemical balance. And we can say it resets many of your receptors for many different neurotransmitters and substances back to a previous stage where they were working in a more proper or more physiological way. We want to call it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the great advantage of ibogaine is that it has a kind of long lasting effect. It remains there for a period of time that opens this window of opportunity for people to begin readapting to a new or a previous way of living. Yeah, depending on how severe is the problem, it has to be like totally changed or just get back to the original pathway. That's what we mean with getting to yourself, to your true self. Yeah, getting back to where you were or getting where you have to be, to the life that you deserve, not the one that you have been carrying upon your shoulders for several years, but what really was meant for you, like something that you really deserve, and not what life has pulled you through in a different situations or consequences.
Right. I love that. I always say, we have to remember that it's usually not a hardware issue, right? Sometimes when our computers start acting up, we don't need to throw the whole computer away, but somehow we've downloaded some malware, right? We've got a virus. It needs to go through this resetting process. We need to wipe clean the programming, but the actual functionality, the way that our minds are working, the way that our bodies are functioning, that's still performing properly. So that's so amazing how ibogaine can get right into that center part. Tom, did
Yeah,
you have
and
more?
Margaret, just to add to that idea, remember, no addict, no person that we have the privilege of working with, or any therapist outside of Beyond, is operating in isolation, right?
Right.
We're in relationships, people are in communities. Um, they don't wake up one day and become a qualified candidate for therapy on their own. This is usually a process that has gotten to a point, which frankly at Beyond we hope to help people avoid, but has gotten to a point where it is no longer sustainable. It is no longer serving them. And so, what the insight oriented ibogaine approach of Beyond aims to do is first understand what are the issues that need to be identified, what are the intentions that need to be set
Mhm.
beyond just stopping the behavior. The behavior is is part of the equation, whether it's sex, gambling, pornography, drugs, or a recurring a response to a recurring traumatic event. The behavior modification or the behavioral aspect of this is a result of something.
Mhm.
It is not the thing that we're aiming to address. So in that early phase, when you asked about understanding the whole person, we're really trying to understand what is the root cause of the mood, the mindset, the psychological experience, emotional experience that is resulting in this behavior. And there are a number of ways that we do that. Our preparation begins remotely. So before a guest even leaves their location, their home environment, they're engaged with therapeutic coaches from Beyond to begin a series of exercises to develop sort of the foundational material, if you will, that are our trained addiction medicine therapists on site are going to use with that guest when they arrive to say, okay, now we sort of have an understanding of the landscape, what's causing these behaviors. They go deeper in the pretreatment phase. Again, aiming to understand the whole person means understanding their relationships, understanding their own life experiences, their expectations, their family, their sense of self, and their spiritual experience as well. So psychological, emotional aspects to setting that personal psychedelic agenda is crucial prior to the ibogaine, because otherwise the ibogaine does what it does, as Dr. Malacara so eloquently pointed out, but it needs to be utilized in a context with a structured, facilitated approach, so the value is compounded. We're not just detoxing or resetting, we're actually helping people separate from that behavior so that they can see clearly, so that they can begin a new way of relating to the experience that's causing the behavior that is more constructive and healthier for them. I hope that helps you understand.
It totally does. That it's not just a quick vacation, right? We're not going to come down here, take this magic pill, and then be a changed person when we leave. That it's a full process. This is a decision. And what's so great about what you guys do is, instead of having to go around the corner to our doctor's office, we're able to begin this transformational journey, or go through the most in-depth part of it at your luxurious, beautiful facilities in Mexico. We can skip to that, right? So say we've decided that this is right for us. We've undergone the pre-treatment, those sort of pre-steps that happening, the coaching process. Now we've landed and we're on site there at the facility. What happens, what's happening to my physical body as the treatment's being administered? That's the kind of stuff I'm curious about.
Sure. So again, just to set the table, the context, we're treating the whole person, right? So the environment matters, nutrition matters, the feelings of the relationship with the staff matter. We aim to, we've designed an environment, we've created a location, a place, which will expand, that most of our clients are going to feel extremely comfortable in. They're very familiar with the type of environment, with the pool, the comfortable accommodations, access to internet, great food. These things, first of all, we want people to feel safe. We want them to feel comfortable so that they can do the work that I was just describing and Dr. Malacara was describing. So while they're with us, of course, those elements are not therapy. Sure, we also offer adjunct therapies, yoga, meditation, sound healing, sometimes qigong. We've had clients request jujitsu, things that are very familiar in a healing environment. But that's not ibogaine treatment. That's the set and setting. So what I described before is the mindset we're helping prepare through the remote coaching. And then the setting itself is a place of healing. It is where a therapist and our guests can deeply engage, quickly build trust, quickly build a sense of safety, so that when they go into the ibogaine-assisted treatment, they actually get the work done. So the environment is clinical, but not too clinical. It's warm and elegant, but not opulent. The intention is not to distract somebody. The intention is to help them feel safe, so that they can do the hard work that they need to do to change their life, because they came here to do work. They didn't come here, as you pointed out, on vacation.
Exactly. So important. Such an important thing to redo. It brought me to another part. So I know we were going to talk about, what the actual administration of the medicine is, and that is important. And I'm hoping it can lead us into, well, let's start there because I think that is important. People have curiosity. How is this I've done some, where it can be dissolvable or some things are inhaled. What type of administration process is ibogaine treatment?
Well, ibogaine is not a water-soluble substance, so it cannot be injected. It cannot be given IV. It cannot be given intramuscular. So it has to be ingested. You need to take it orally by mouth and swallow it. The way that we give our patients the ibogaine is in capsules.
Okay.
So it's orally taken. What happens to your physical body is that we set an environment of clinically, medically safe environment. You're going to be on a kind of hospital setting with a cardiac and vital signs monitor and in a hospital bed. Yeah, because it's very important to uh, go through this process of the ibogaine in the most safest way possible. And we will be taking care of your body. We will be taking care of your cardiac frequency, the way your heart's beating, your vital signs, your blood pressure, your breathing rate, everything. It will be monitored the whole time that you stay during the process of the ibogaine. How long will it take? Well, it's a standard or an average of 12 hours, but uh, we are treating people, and people have physical and chemical differences. So there will be certain guests or patients that will have a slow metabolism. Probably they will need to stay longer than 12 hours. There will be those ones that will fit perfectly in the standard and the mode and the media, and they will stay there for 12 hours. And there will be some fast metabolizers, some rapid metabolizers that will be ready to leave the medical setting earlier than 12 hours. So we adapt to the results. It's continuous surveillance. There's a nurse aware of all the monitors, depending on the amount of patients treated at a time, but mostly is one or maximum two. So we are always aware of what is going on. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And the rest of the effect of the ibogaine is directly in your brain. It's a psychological experience that allows you to understand certain things, to face, to confront, and to deal with whatever takes you to take the ibogaine, your substance abuse, your mental health, your PTSD, whatever takes you there. It's something that you need to deal with. You need to be confronted and helped. And if an event arises that you need like a psychological assessment or something during the treatment, our psychological team will be there to support, to assist, to address whatever happens. But most of the times, what we rather is to have you go through the experience on your own and then receive the assessment and the debriefing and the insight helped with a psychologist attendance.
So during that 12-hour period, um, are we eating? Am I walking around? Am I strapped to a table? Am I immobile? What's kind of happening during that period?
So Margaret,
Mhm.
there's a scientific aspect of everything I'm about to say, which hopefully Dr. Malacara can elucidate on. I've done ibogaine at Beond. I think, our first official treatment, if I'm not mistaken. It tends to be two phases. There's a more psychedelic experience in the beginning, for me, about 45 minutes after I took the dosage of ibogaine, which Dr. Malacara calculated in his own medical training and methodology, which he can get into. About 45 minutes, I had some buzzing in my ears, a bit of a sensation of heat in my body. And so it's a slower, compared to other psychedelic experiences. It's not a rocket ship. It's sort of a slower trajectory. And then I personally my own experience, I'm not speaking on behalf of ibogaine, it felt like I was able to go, the sensation, my eyes were closed. I had a very comfortable eye mask on. I had noise canceling headphones on. I'm in a very dimly lit room with a heart monitor, with the nurses present, the psychologist present, and the doctor available, coming in and out as needed. I was given a thorough briefing on what to expect, answered any questions that I had from the staff. And then it seemed like about 2 hours later, I wanted to take the mask off and ask the nurse who was by my side, how long has this been? But during that period, which seemed like about 2 hours, I felt like I was going out into space, a black, sort of dark night sky, where there were little lights. And with my mind, I could go to those lights, and I experienced something from my past, my parents, things I couldn't make sense of, images, experiences from even high school. And I was able to see these experiences clearly, understand their relevance to things that I had thought, things that I had felt. But I wasn't attached to them. I didn't feel any sense of shame or guilt or remorse related to traumatic events that had occurred to me, early childhood, early adult life, etc. When I took that mask off, so I did that for, it seemed like 2 hours. I asked the nurse, how long was that? She said, oh, that was 6 hours. I had been doing that. And then there was I was surprised, of course.
Yeah.
There was a shift where the visualization that I was just describing became much less pronounced, and my mind was extremely active. I was thinking about those experiences and others. My mind was planning. I was a very creative, introspective, rational experience that I had. It seemed like for another 2 hours, maybe 45 minutes, something, an hour or two.
Right.
And I was very verbal, very talking. At no time did I feel lost. Did I feel like I was afraid? I felt like I was clearly looking at and clearly thinking about and more clearly understanding experiences of my life that were important to me, relationships, etc. I took the mask off again. I asked the nurse, how long is that then? And she said that was about 5 hours. So when we say 12-hour experience, there's some benefits there, because you actually have a lot of time to do some very deep work, but it doesn't feel laborious at all.
Interesting. Okay.
And so one last point. So there's something called ataxia. There is a sense of immobility. You're not up walking around. This is not a recreational experience.
Right.
I'm laying in a bed. I did have a sense at various times, like, could I move? And I was able to wiggle my fingers and wiggle my toes and scratch my nose very easily. But I wasn't in the same way completely aware of my physical body in the way I am right now.
Right.
And when I needed to get up to use the restroom during that period, the nurse assisted me. I was a little wobbly and off balance, but I was easily able to do that and then get back into bed and continue the journey.
So interesting. Well, Tom, I hope that you're comfortable continuing to share. Now I feel invested in your experience. So after you've kind of gone through this, what were your big takeaways? I don't know. I'm making assumptions that maybe you weren't suffering from a direct opioid addiction or severe debilitating depression or PTSD. So, what caused you to undergo the treatment, and what were those big changes that you were able to manifest afterwards?
Great question. So no, I am not suffering from an active addiction. And like most people, I have incidents of depression, some bits of anxiety. And certainly I've had trauma, severe trauma in my early childhood. I was able to see those events that occurred to me as a young child from with clarity, with detail. Now, I've done much therapy, conventional therapy, EMDR, somatic therapy, a lot of talk therapy. And frankly, one of the benefits of the ibogaine experience was, to see the relationship between all those years of work, a lot of money, and a lot of SSRIs and so on, in a context of, oh, actually, I have a much more self-motivated relationship with my own healing. From the beginning of the journey, I set an intention to go examine those events, to go look at those events. And I was able to see them in detail. So up close, I could literally see the faces of people in my life, some of whom I had some resentments towards, because I felt like they didn't treat me. In fact, they didn't treat me particularly well in certain circumstances. I'm not alone there. But I was able to resolve that. I was able to see them as people who had made a mistake.
Yeah.
I was able to see them as people who were suffering themselves,
Right.
and be able to resolve my feelings about my thoughts about those experiences, some of which had happened decades ago. And I had tried to do that in conventional therapeutic settings.
Right.
And rationally, I believed I had. But I never felt like that real complete healing had occurred until I had the ibogaine experience.
So interesting. Okay. So that gets me, wondering. And what I wanted, our big takeaway, and what I wanted to talk about, and especially to try to shift some minds around, okay, so say maybe I'm not ready to experience the ibogaine therapy for myself, but I'm an entrepreneur, I'm in the industry, I'm in healthcare, I'm, in the health and wellness industry. How might ibogaine positively affect my business? Are there ways that, we were thinking, you mentioned it being a great add-on service, right? So if say I'm a talk therapist, I'm a traditional talk therapist, and I've been seeing, my host of clients here, and there's some that just aren't progressing as quickly as I wanted them to. Is it appropriate to team up with someone like you to help my personal and private patients and my private practice?
We think so. A lot of our referrals come from therapists whose clients have been struggling with chemical dependency or behavioral issues that conventional methods have not been able to deeply enough address with enduring recovery.
Right.
For sure, we're actively in dialogue with therapists, with rehabilitation, drug and alcohol counseling professionals, addiction medicine professionals, as well as conventional rehabs. And there's a lot of reason for that, because there's a lot of people that we can help less expensively, more quickly, and within a longer term outcome, assuming they do their part, assuming they are motivated to do their part after that reset, then many conventional rehabs have been able to assist. Doctor, do you want to add something?
Yes, definitely. I think the most important part here is that, well, as Tom said, and this is not something that you can do recreationally. You are not going to be moving around. That's what I stress, that you need to be in a medical setting,
Right.
and you're going to be in a bed. Yeah, you're not going to be restrained to a bed. You can change your position, you can move. It's going to be kind of difficult because, as Tom already addressed, you get ataxia. Ataxia is moving clumsily. So you will lose a little bit of your sense of your own body, but it doesn't interfere with your movement. Yeah. You will be able to stand up and go to the bathroom, come back to the bed, and get to another position. You can be laying on your back, you can be laying on your side, whatever is needed. We try to get our patients in the most comfortable way. And what is more important of all of this is the way ibogaine stimulates your brain. It stimulates your brain in, and I call it a brainstorm. It's a brainstorm that do not allow you to rest, and many people sometimes even complain about being unable to sleep at nighttime because your brain doesn't leave you alone. It's like, okay, we need to solve this, we need to solve this, and there's ideas, and there's images, and there's thoughts, and there's this brainstorm of actions and successes that happens because they need to be solved, and your brain awares that, hey, we need to take care of this, we need to solve this, we need to address it with someone or ourselves or whatever. And well, that's the process that we need to go through in order to feel these very important change in our brain chemistry and our perspective. Because even though, as I told earlier, ibogaine has a wide time of remaining in your system, the window of opportunity will remain while you want it to be there, while you are still working with it. Because eventually, if you don't address what is going on and you leave it alone or you leave it behind, even though it continues there, you will not be aware of it anymore, and things will go back to the same old,
Right.
which is what we don't want to happen. Yeah,
Right.
I cannot guarantee that it will not happen because this is a work of more than one person. It's not just the physician which is treating the guest. It's not just the person, the, the the patient, the guest which is receiving the treatment, and it's not only the psychological team behind this. We
Mhm.
need to work all together to be able to help people that the moment that they need to leave, they are ready to leave the premises, they are ready to face the world they left behind. And as you said, this is not a vacation setting, but it will feel like vacation setting. And sometimes getting back to reality is overwhelming.
Yeah.
So they will need to be ready not to get that much of overwhelmed about getting back to reality. They need to be ready to say, okay, I need to address this with courage, with braveness, and to do what it has to be done to change it for good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a great way to end it. It's so impactful. There's so many more questions I feel like I personally have about ibogaine, and this definitely shifted my mindset when it comes to the capabilities of this medicine, and gives me so much hope for the future of so many that are suffering from opioid addiction, especially in the United States. And looking forward to the work that you guys are doing to continue to destigmatize this medicine and make it even more accessible. So hopefully we'll be able to do a part two. I know at the minimum, we're going to make sure that all of you watching have a connection directly to Beond. They have amazing educational research, videos, articles. They do tons of content to help you understand when this is appropriate for you or how you might be able to share this with someone who it could be life-changing for. So thank you
Uh,
again, Tom. Thank you, Doctor.
One last point. One last
Yes.
point, Margaret. We routinely connect our alumni with prospective guests to help them understand that we have, deeply committed to what we call aftercare. Some people call integration, both acute while on site and long-term care. So the preparation that begins before a guest leaves their home is continued after they get back home with that therapeutic coach to really underscore that transformation that's occurred while they were on site with us at Beond. So
And
there's a
that's
lot of
crucial,
resources.
guys, right?
Mhm. Go
Many
ahead.
people don't have that type of runway aftercare. They don't have that type of post-treatment care built into their plan. And that's what makes you guys so special in the work that you're doing. Sure.
Thank you for noticing. Yeah, we really do believe that that's absolutely crucial. It is the beginning. The I begins the beginning. We want to do it in the right context, the right set and setting, with that roadmap for recovery or transformation. But we also want to be there as life shows up for those guests after they've left, to help them understand, how do I respond to the stress or this challenge of life now that I've had this experience with the team at Beond in Mexico?
Well, I can't wait. Maybe we can even, when we repost this, we'll link to some of the testimonials that you guys have. And so I know for me, that was so enlightening, just hearing true use cases of real individuals that went through the treatment and what they were able to take away from that. Such amazing to hear your story as well, Tom. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I spoke with a guest who was with us in early April. He's now 90 days after his departure. He's truly thriving. This is someone with years, decades of addiction and chemical dependency, a functioning adult with a family, with teenagers and so on, but had never really been able, through his own efforts and conventional rehabilitation techniques, to recover. He's now 90 days out and just really thriving. We're so proud of him. And there are many other examples as well. But I think one of the most important considerations is, long after or months after people leave a treatment facility, how are they doing? How are we keeping in touch with them and supporting the change that happened while they were with us at Beond in Mexico?
And, understanding that you guys have built a business structure that doesn't need a cyclical patient. Do you know what I mean? A lot of these practices, you got to start wondering, like, well, if you guys cure me, I won't come back. And so is that really in your best interest? And so, that's so unique. And you can learn more about that because Tom is going to be a guest on our investor hot seat for Psychedelic Invest coming up here in the next few weeks. And so you'll be able to answer, I think, a lot of those questions about the business side of things and how your mission is still connected to your business structure and why that is setting you guys apart in this field. So again, thank you guys so much. I hope we were able to shift some minds out there when it comes to alternative medicines and specifically to ibogaine. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys again
You're welcome.
soon. And they can just find you,
Pleasure
right?
to
I
be
mean,
with you.
can I self-enroll, or do I need some sort of referral if I did want to visit the retreat?
You don't need a referral. People come to Beond, spelled BEOND .us, Beyond Us. There's an easy form they fill out. This commences the medical evaluation, psychological evaluation, and the engagement. It happens regularly for us. We've got a strict process that our therapists, our doctors, our client care professionals utilize to support someone's decision making, whether they come to Beond or not. We want them to have the best information they can about why they might consider ibogaine or any psychedelic substance for their own transformation.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. We can't wait to hear more testimonies that come from this. It'd be great.
It's a great program. Thanks for having us. Great to see you, Doctor. Thank you, Margaret.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you guys so much. And make sure to stay connected to all of the data that's happening inside of the industry and to connect with individuals and organizations like Beond, Tom, and Dr. Felipe Malacara. Make sure that you're a part of Newly, which is a great database that's working to destigmatize the psychedelic industry and brings together entrepreneurs, patients, therapists, and investors into one central platform. So make sure you visit us at newly.com as well. I'm Margaret Williamson, Head of Partnerships at Nucleus. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you for the next Mind-Shifting Moment.